Hey, Frank. Hey, Justin. Popped in, popped out.
Evening all.
Hi.
It's all happening here. We cracked 80 Fahrenheit, so we're on our way.
Oh boy, yeah, it's 75 here.
So we're finally there. It's it's now really windy this morning. But yep, it's all happening here.
What's up, Jody?
Jody,
How's everybody doing?
Going.
yep,
I survived another day.
yep. Another day above the dirt line is a bonus.
It was touch and go for a while. I fell off a ladder today.
You doing?
I was working on one of my outdoor cameras over on the north side of the house.
Yeah.
And I had a ladder up, and I was up there, and I was messing around with it, and I came back down, and as I stepped down, I tilted back like this and landed on my back on the deck and on a couple of chairs and on a couple of them. I had to call somebody to come and help me up, and then my mail lady came by and she helped me up, and it was touch and go.
Anything broken or just
No,
pretty sore?
just pretty sore.
So you took a couple of um what are
Tylenol,
they?
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Couldn't think of the name.
Aleve, I think it is.
Yeah. Whatever you call it over there, I think we got something different. We take a Bex and a lie down.
Yeah, yeah. So I almost killed myself. I was laying there on my back and I couldn't get up. I couldn't move because when I fell on a chair, and the chair collapsed and it was cradling me in the down position.
Oh,
Because I thought, well, maybe I can just roll over. No.
What were you working on your camera for?
Well, it wouldn't connect, and it wouldn't connect, and I unplugged it, plugged it in, plugged out. So I was up on there, um, trying to get the camera to work because it plugs in the bottom of this connection, it gives it power and everything else.
mm-hmm.
It's a Wise Cam, WYZE.
It doesn't have a built-in battery?
No, they plug in to the wall.
How the hell do you plug them into the wall? You got plugs all around the outside of your house or something?
Well, they have a cable.
Uh-huh.
Plug the cable into the wall because they got one of those power dongles we were talking about,
Uh-huh.
and then
Mhm.
that plugs into the camera.
Okay.
This is the power cord. You got this plugs in the wall, then you take and you plug this up into the phone. It gives you about 6-8 feet.
Hmm.
You can get this cord longer, which I do have, but I don't have any that I'm not using. I get so sick and tired of hearing that Kamala talk. She talks like Trump's got no plan. My plan is just to build an opportunity. Like, what the hell? What are you selling?
Hmm.
Snake oil. That's what you're selling.
Yep.
And you know what's sad is, Dominic, there's people that listen to that shit.
I know we've got the same issues over here. We've got the same politicians. I just don't understand why anybody
No,
listens to them or votes for them.
yeah,
It's not just an American problem. It's a worldwide problem.
yeah, she's talking like, I will bring down prices. I will do this.
Well, why the fuck didn't they do that the last 4 years?
Yeah,
Because it's
talking
done
out of
nothing
her
but
Exactly.
gone
ass.
up
What she's talking.
opposite.
Exactly. When you're coming up to an election, the politicians say, well, I'll bring down prices. I'll do this. I'll do. Well, why didn't you do that in your first term in office?
Well, the other thing that really grinds my ass is here's their snake oil statement. I will make all the billionaires and trillionaires in the United States pay their fair share. What's their fair share? What? How much is that?
Mm.
What percentage is a
Is it
fair
a
share?
yeah, that's what I mean. It
Yeah,
should be just a consistent percentage
yeah.
across everybody.
Should be a percentage across the board. I mean,
Oh,
Yeah.
they've said that. Every politician has said that for years.
Oh, I know it.
And
Yeah, every politician from both sides have said it. Hello, Brenda.
and
Sunstone.
I'll tell you what, though, I watched the Vance and Tampon Tim's debate the other night, and yeah, I think Vance smoked his ass.
Oh, I know that, but you're going to have people who are vote for the other side say, oh, Waltz did better and is a better orator. I just I just
No,
don't
I don't think
understand.
Waltz did bad, but I just don't think he beat
Oh,
Vance in that one.
I know that. I didn't watch it, and I don't really
I
know
think both of them
much
did good for what
politics.
it was, but Vance definitely.
well, the thing of it is what I feel sorry for Vance is the two moderators were definitely in the Democratic pocket. They were, uh,
Yeah, and that seems to be when you have political debates, there's always there's the moderators or the channel that it's on. If it's on TV, are generally from one side or the other, and we don't have any television stations that are unbiased. They're either one side or the other.
Yep.
All we need to do is we need to find a common ground and excuse me.
There's a lot of ones that claim to be biased, but they're not. Or they claim that they're not taking a side.
What I find is a laugh is when an unbiased person is not unbiased, but a biased person is questioned. They freak out. They lose control. They can't
Yeah.
handle it. You know. You can ask them specific questions about what are you talking about.
That's politics for you.
Hey, Brenda, so how are you doing? Are you getting things cleaned up and ready to go? Or I know that she and her husband are working in the yard getting everything all primed back up, but when you see the disaster that's happened up in North Carolina, Georgia, and that area, it's just unbelievable.
Yep. There's still a bunch of people missing too, and I think it was
Hey, here comes
100.
Dre.
I think it was
Hey,
125 dead so far.
Good evening, Dre.
Good
Good
evening, Gray.
afternoon, good evening, everyone.
Good afternoon to you. Yeah, you're out on the
Yeah,
west coast.
afternoon to you.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's 2:08 over there.
yeah.
Mm,
I have a
Crikey.
question for anyone in the chat or panel. I would like to know what people's opinions or what their beliefs are and what the role, the responsibilities or authority of the Vice President of the United States.
Well,
I can't really
up
answer
until
that.
this point, I think it's been various. Up at this point, she's her role right now, the current vice president we have is she babysits the president because he's out of it.
Yeah, well, I'm not talking about this any vice president, period.
Well, the
I mean,
vice president is just supposed
More of
to
a caretaker role, I would say. You know, from a person who is understanding something from a different point of view. I see it as a caretaker role.
Well, the reason why I asked that
yeah.
question is I keep hearing, social media, the news outlets, and everybody else, and I think you guys just kind of alluded to it that she's been in office
Hello, Rod.
3.5 years, and why hasn't she done this and done that? I keep thinking the point, well, she doesn't have the authority to set policy.
Exactly. That's how I understand it.
Well, no, in a normal position, in normal position, she wouldn't. But in the position she's in now, I think she could tell Biden what to do, and she doesn't.
Well, that's our opinion of what Biden's capable or incapable. I'm just saying the position itself is to be
it's number two.
Number two, and to support the president's policies at all times. Okay. And I'm saying, I mean, the strongest vice president we've had in modern history has been Dick Cheney. He has been the strongest vice president we have had in modern history. But if you even go back further, there has never been a vice president that has set policy, made policy on behalf of the country in spite of what the president says or wants to see done.
Mm.
So that's why I look at the fact that when people talk about, well, what has she done last 4 years? She's done her job by supporting the president. That's the role of vice president, is to support the president.
Mm.
Not to set policy, not to cut deals, not to do anything else, but support the president's policy. I mean, that's like going back to saying Pence. Okay, what did Pence do under Trump? He didn't set no policy, did he? All thing he did was carry out his responsibilities. And part of his separate responsibilities is to, when he's in charge of the Senate for the votes, is to accept the votes that have been approved by each state. That's his job of the role of vice president. Just like Harris did her job when she comes in and it comes up for the vote, no matter who wins, she will accept all the official ballots that come in from each state and territory. That is their job as vice president, being in charge of the Senate. So when I hear people talk about, well, how come she didn't do this? I said, that's not her job. That's not her role. She is not authorized to set policy for the border. She is not authorized to set policy for Israel. She is not authorized to set policy for Ukraine. Just as any other vice president is not authorized to do any of those same things.
Yeah, the only thing she was authorized by for Biden was she was the border czar.
Like I say, she can't set policy.
No. Yes, she
can't-
could,
he
because he told her she was in charge of the border.
Like I say,
he
can say what he
delegated,
wants.
and the president can delegate, just like
Right.
Yeah.
just like
technic-
agencies can invoke rules.
Right, but it's the
Without
president's
presidential-
actual policy. She goes down there, she is acting on his behalf.
Oh,
Well,
agreed.
technically, she can kind of set policies because she can break a tie in the Senate.
Well, that's her job.
So,
She's in charge of the
right.
Senate. That's her job.
Right. So what I'm
Constitutionally,
saying
the
is-
the vice president has exactly two jobs. per the Constitution. One,
Mhm.
president of the Senate. Two, take over as president when the president can't. That's
There you
it.
go.
That's
That's
the
it.
two things that are literally spelled out in the Constitution for the vice president. And
That's
everybody's
what-
asked this question for a long time. What do?
Right.
Whatever the president tells them to do, just like everybody else in the executive branch.
Yeah,
Pretty much.
and that's my whole point. She cannot set separate policy on her own without her getting the marching orders from the president initially.
Yeah, correct.
My big argument is not what she's done the last 4 years. It's just the policies that her administration she's been with have not done good things, in my opinion, in the past 4 years.
Yeah,
So I don't
all,
have confidence that she's going to do anything different if she gets in.
Of
Well, like
course
I said,
not.
we
Look
can-
at her
we can
voting
all-
record
we
when
can-
she was a senator.
like
You'll
I
know
said, we can
exactly
all
what she's
agree.
gonna
We can
do.
all agree or disagree on that, Justin. That's just the Democratic Party's agenda. Okay,
I'm
That's
not
why they
blaming her
picked
for the
that
last
nominee.
4 years necessarily. I'm just blaming her, her party in general. You know, her
What do you think
administration
was
within
in
the White
charge
House.
with El Dodo not being able to know which way was up?
but just as I go back in history,
Either his wife or her, so one of the two. Although it's not the first time we've had a female president.
yeah,
Who was the first? You know this one, Jay?
the first
Or I
female
should say
president? Oh,
unofficial.
Eleanor
unofficial.
Roosevelt.
No,
Who?
before that.
Before
Woodrow
that,
Wilson.
let's see.
Woodrow
History-wise,
Wilson. Because Woodrow Wilson's wife, because he had that stroke.
That's just true. But I'm trying
And
to think.
nobody wanted to invoke the 25th. So she
Right.
basically played president until the end.
Woodrow Wilson, even though a lot of people don't know this unless you did a lot
What's up,
of digging,
Brenda?
Woodrow Wilson did a lot of damage to this country when he
What's up,
had
Dusty?
the education system rewrite our history books. Woodrow Wilson, he was an educator himself primarily, and he had the higher institutions of this country rewrite the history books into the form of our history of what we are taught and known today. That was done under his administration.
Hey, if it wasn't for Teddy Roosevelt, we wouldn't have national parks. So God love Teddy Roosevelt.
Yeah, Teddy Roosevelt had his moments. You know,
And I mean, and Edward's got a good point. He says the vice president would have some kind of influence, but
Oh, of
technically,
course,
yes, on
everybody in the
paper,
executive branch who sits in the meetings with the president has influence.
yeah,
Right.
that's what I'm saying. They are there to be advisors, but it is still the president's job to set policy. He gets
Right,
all
he
the
would,
advice from all the folks in the world of what he wants done.
yeah,
but
but
it
his
falls on his
signature
shoulder.
has to be on that paper at the end of the day. Yeah.
That's it. That's why I get back to. I said, when I hear people talk about, oh, she posted, I said, no, she wasn't supposed to do this or do that. That's not her job. She carries out what the president tells her to carry out.
Now, but if they're using that argument of things that he was delegating to her and then she was mishandling, then I could see that argument.
Oh,
Because
like
if
I
he
say,
told her to deal with the border crisis, and she's obviously, we've all seen, has not been dealt with hardly at all, then I would say that's on her, not
mhm.
so
But
much
we
him.
all, well, this is what I'm saying is you just don't send somebody somewhere without having instructions or at least a agenda to go down there to fulfill. She wasn't going down there to be all willy-nilly, just like we don't send nobody else down there to go all willy-nilly. We don't send the director of Homeland Security to go down there and be all willy-nilly and do what he thinks it should be done. You carry out the agenda and the policies of the president.
And Jay, you know as well as I do why they want that border open.
Yeah.
It's their next set of voters. In
Yeah,
their
Exactly.
mind.
Like I said,
That,
I
their
thought-
mind,
I
that's
thought-
exactly what it is. Hey, those people
Yeah.
like our policies. We want
Yeah,
them
he's-
to
I,
vote.
said, I really like the way the governor of Texas went after it because this is what I tell people. I tell people the wall was a waste of time and money. I like what the governor of Texas did. He put them large buoys out there you can't swim under, you can't climb over. I said that was an excellent idea.
Just a different kind of wall.
different type of wall. And I'm
It's
the type
still a
of-
wall. Still a wall.
I'm the type of guy you go out there and throw a few little mines out there to even seal the deal. I filled it with piranhas and crocodiles.
Yeah.
You know,
You know,
Definitely.
my thing is, if you really want to talk about closing the border, let's not stop pussyfooting around. Shut the border down. But then again, you can't argue about the skyrocketing prices are going to happen on fruits, vegetables, and other goods that we have an international agreement with other countries being stuff shipped in. So when you want to shut the border down, everything stops. Just like right now with the strike at the ports, everything's going to stop. So
Yeah,
that's what
but
you got to live with.
that guy that's threatening to shut the ports down, though, I think he doesn't understand the new world, the way the new
Well-
world works, and I think it's going to kill him at the end because all this is going to do is force them to automate everything,
Well,
try to automate as much as they can now.
look at the restaurant industry with all the automation they've been putting in for all this shit.
Yeah. And like I say, the timing couldn't be worse is the worst thing. When you have a lot of states within close proximity of the ports of Baltimore and other large ports on the East Coast who are suffering right now due to weather conditions or the storm that already came through, trying to find who's who and everything else. So now you have people, regardless of what party they may be in or whatever their beliefs may
Sure.
be, are going to be in desperate need of goods and services that are not going to take even longer to get there because you don't have the crews or whatever, even the automation, because even to work those cranes, somebody's sitting in that seat.
Well, yeah, because they're rerouting a lot of this stuff to the West Coast because he
Russell.
only controls.
And
The
like I say,
eastern
it
side
takes
of the
even
ports.
longer to get there because once they get to the West Coast, they got to offload it, send it through trains to get it back to the Midwest before you can start putting it on trucks.
Yep.
What's actually a lot of what could be impacted. I read the article yesterday. Is a lot of medical stuff comes in on
Oh,
the
yeah.
East Coast.
Oh yeah,
A lot of
I-
the precursors for
that's
the
and that's
drugs
why I tell
for
people
the
when they talk
drugs
about
that we make here.
yeah, and that's why I tell people I say yeah, go ahead and close the borders and see how much food prices are going to go up then.
See,
Mm,
Just shut
everybody's
the border
worried.
down.
that's good, Russell.
Everybody's worried about these industries automating everything, but I think in the long run, it's just going to create a lot of jobs that we're not thinking about right now.
Right.
There's
And
going to be
like I
other
say,
jobs that spawn out of nowhere that we've never thought of would be a job.
well,
you
it
know.
also talks about the fact that it's a double-edged sword because some of these same individuals who support certain parties, certain groups about closing the borders and everything else, but they're the same corporations who hire a lot of these immigrants who come here at lower wages so they can keep their bottom line profits at a certain height, certain percentage. But that's all we deal about in America. As long as the bottom line percentage doesn't get dipped on, we will keep what we do as we currently do. And like I say, you have a lot of folks who work for Purdue Farms, a lot of other places who make all the little what's the other one who makes all the hot dogs and stuff like that, all the scraps. I said, those companies, look who's working at those companies. Most of them are immigrants because they can hire them at a lower wage. And the local folks who live in those areas, they're the one getting cut out.
You know, it'd be pretty simple if they just put a system in place for all those businesses that needed migrants, right? They go, hey, I need 5 for this. And then they controlled that at the border, found 5 people, gave them a working document, and let them in. Instead of letting everybody in, so they let 50 in so that 2 can work.
Even
Now,
right there
I
in
know the
Florida-
number. I know the number's not that bad.
Yeah, I
but
know right there in Florida, a guy was talking about how if he couldn't get more immigrant labor to come in, his farm will be shutting down in the next 5 years. Because he said there is just no Americans who will come work and do crop picking. Because there's certain crops you got to pick by hand.
yeah.
And
No,
he says
agreed.
if I can't get enough immigrants to come in here and do the work, I will have to go under.
But it makes you wonder why isn't there a system for that business, right? To go,
Right.
hey, federal government, I need this many.
Yeah.
And People who show up at the border apply. Hey, you get this. Great. Right? Do it legally. Put the system in place to legally let those people
and like I say, up
in to
until
work
around
the
the-
jobs.
Up until around the 60s, we had a program like that where people were giving green card status to come do work during the seasonal times, to
Mhm.
come plant
Hey, Frank.
and also
Hey,
come
Frank.
to harvest. And that's how we saw it. They were coming back and forth across the border during those times of the year, get their work status and take care of
There's
whatever
no
needs
reason
it.
why we
Like I
can't
say,
do it again.
like the biggest thing is
Russell.
we have a nation of people who will no longer go out in fields and work.
You're not wrong.
Nobody's going out in the field to work. I think that's beneath us.
Well, you know, the thing of it is, Dre, is that the millions of dollars that we put into the free programs
hmm
is also at fault to that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, this. Like I said, there's always additional symptoms to the problem
Yep.
that spins off of it. And I was going to ask you Dusty's thing: how many people at the dock? We had a big dock thing. I know in the Port of Long Beach. I want to say it's almost maybe 5-10 years ago where they had a big
Yeah,
brouhaha
I remember that.
yeah, out there about automation and stuff like that. And it was, and I can tell people everything has to evolve. We can't unload ships the way we unload ships 30, 40 years ago. We can't keep pace. There's not enough manpower, not enough, just like I say, there's not enough manpower to unload ships like that. It's time consuming. So automation comes in to expedite the offloading of these ships.
Well,
Everything's worked off cranes for the
And I
most
kinda-
part. Go
kind
ahead,
of want to
Justin.
touch on something Brenda said about vetting people. The problem is how do you vet people from some third world countries that don't even keep records on their own people?
There you go.
There's some countries people don't even have birth certificates. They have no idea how old they even
Hello.
are.
The same
so
way we do
if
with
you don't have any
tourist
information on them, you
visas
say,
and other
"Sorry."
visas. They show up at the embassy
Donald,
with
evening.
documents.
The way you vet them is if they show up without any information, you just like, you know what? Sorry, we have so many showing up with information that you're on the bottom of the list
Exactly.
because you don't have
Right.
information. Sorry.
And the next
And
next level of
It's not about
that is
compassion. People talk about compassion. It's not about compassion. It's about sovereignty of your nation.
yeah. Well, I say the next level of that, which we do to ourselves, is we've had E-Verify for what 30 years now or
Mhm.
longer, and how many of these corporations are actually using it?
Yep.
Yeah, but
They
there
need to
is
start enforcing that.
there
and
is
it's-
some countries out there that are backward than us. Like they
Mhm.
don't have the documentation, like you were saying.
Certainly.
Now, back in the old days, when the ships arrived in New York and they went to that other island on the side there,
Ellis Island.
Ellis Island,
they
yeah.
did not have documentation. So what did the United States do, or what did and Canada would do in that state, in that kind? They would give them names, or they would look at them and say, okay,
Identity.
you're around this age.
And
Like,
sometimes they
I
would turn them away.
understand that some countries are backward. Why can't we do that still with them? I understand we have to protect ourselves.
Why can't we do
gotta
that, or
a
why should we do
background
that?
check. We got to do a background check on them to make sure they're not terrorists.
No, you
or
need to make an
whatever,
argument
but-
why we should do it.
Yeah, true. There's two
You're
arguments.
you're
One-
saying you're making the argument. You're asking why can't we do that?
Yeah.
The question is why should we do that?
Well, he was answering my question, like how would you legit vet people?
Yeah, you wouldn't.
And you wouldn't be
just say
able
sorry.
to.
You say
So-
sorry. You
Well,
know,
the sad part is the world doesn't operate like we do with all kinds of records and different things
No.
and police reports and prison reports and that kind of thing.
in
Right,
the
that's what I
levels
said.
of
There's-
immigration right now, the canard is that these are migrant workers. No, the levels of immigration have increased far beyond what the capacity is for. You would, if we were producing 3 times as much produce, then yeah, you could say these were all migrant workers. But we're not producing 3 times as much produce.
We're
Right.
producing less because it's going to Baja California. A lot of
And
it
that's
is
why
moving.
that's
A
why I'm
lot
saying
of
that,
it,
because
a
a
lot
lot
of
of
it is
our
moving.
a
A
lot of
lot
our,
of it is moved.
like what you were
Agriculture, as
saying
far as
earlier,
fruits and
there's some-
vegetables, are being grown outside of our country now.
A lot of it, yeah.
but like you were saying earlier, there's nobody that wants to go pick field by hands.
That's
Why
right.
is that? Because people don't believe they should, or they say, I don't want to do that job. I don't feel like it. So what do? They either go on unemployment, welfare, get government checks, or they
Mhm.
always try to get free money. And it's too easy. It's you don't get a lot of money, but it's easier to live
Not-
off society nowadays compared
Right.
to
Mhm.
And that's what I'm saying. That these programs, like Paul was saying, these programs are part of the symptoms of the problem that we make it. As I always tell people, you have two things when you try to address issues. You actually can help people, or you end up enabling people. And you convince yourself when you enable somebody, oh, I'm just helping them out. No, you're enabling them because you're making them feel comfortable at
Mhm.
where they're at.
Well, because welfare was
Do not feed
was
the bears.
supposed to. Well, welfare was supposed to be a
Helping
program to
hand.
help you in hard times,
Yeah.
but it's become a livable
A way of life.
generational thing.
People
Right.
say it's like a safety net has turned into a hammock.
Right. And that's what I'm saying, that you're enabling people. Like I said, when you truly help somebody, you got to actually cut off and look at the real cause of the issue. And like Frank was saying, hey, there's work out there, and it may not be the best work out there, but it's work that gives you a day's wage and
Yeah.
puts money in your pocket to handle your
Right.
daily expenses.
But really, the way inflation is, and it's multi-pronged. What we're dealing with is, we got off the gold standard. We're now fiat currency, and you can't pay somebody. And if you paid somebody what they would need to live on, you're paying a lot more than what you're paying those migrant workers. So basically, we're treating third world countries as
Well, that's
we're
what they,
not much better than China.
like I said, that's what they do in the Middle East. The Middle East ships in people from third world countries
Mhm.
to do the labor work, do the housekeeping work.
Mhm.
There are probably more people from the Philippine, Polynesia area of the world who are in Dubai than there is people who are Arabs.
That's
Yeah.
what
look at
a
people-
lot of Iraqis do that in Saudi Arabia. They come across the border for the day, they
Right.
do their work, and they go home at night.
Right.
Look at who's
Right, but
who's
we're
running
using
the
those people for
convenience.
cheap labor
Hey,
to
they-
keep up our
Our standard of living.
luxuries. So
Yeah, our
Look
standard
at
of
who's
living.
running-
are people wanting to lower their standard of living?
the-
Would
look
people
at
be
who's
willing to do
running
that
the,
to bring things
look at
back
who's
into
running-
order?
Look at who's running convenience stores. You're not going to
course,
see a white Canadian or a white man, a US, running a convenience store, having to wake up at 6 a.m. in the morning and working till midnight, and not hiring somebody. And just like, but there's a lot of immigrants that are willing to do that. It's crazy. It's some people are not willing to put in the hours that it actually takes to run a convenience store.
Run
And it's
by
long friggin' hours.
a white family runs the discount smokes that's down the street, discount liquor and smokes.
Well, I
Yeah.
get what
Frank,
he's
I know what
saying
you're
though.
talking
Like
about,
the
Frank.
majority of them are Indian around here.
Because
and
it
same
is
here.
they can come in, make the investment, and it is it's not the greatest job, but
No.
it's an easy job or an easy
Yeah.
investment to get into and build
You,
something.
you know what it really says? And here's the crux of it
Work
all. This is
ethic.
America used to be known for working hard.
Individualism, work ethic.
And now it's they're working hard to avoid work.
Hmm.
I mean, come on. You tell me they're not.
I say the same thing every day,
Especially
Uh,
since COVID.
Rod. I see people who do illegal dumpings of furniture and whatever else they may have in their house. And I even see them out there. They'll go out there and rent a truck from Home Depot or U-Haul, load their crap in it, and go dump on the side of the road. And I said, for all that effort and money you spent, you could have called the local refuse company, set a date, put it on the curb, and they come pick it up for free. We have 2 free pickups a year in my city. Refuse company will come pick up your couch, dining room table, whatever you want to throw out. They'll come pick it up twice a year free. But we got people dumping that, and I got mom and pop companies dumping tires, and other crap, little shade tree mechanic knuckleheads, dumping used oil in different kind of containers that we have to go out and pick up. I got to allocate manpower to go pick up this crap across the city because of a cultural or just a mindset, I put it as, that people don't think taking responsibility to dispose of whatever garbage, hazardous waste that they have around their own homes. So I got to allocate manpower to take care of it. And people wonder why we don't have the money to take care of some of the other things in the city they want done. And I always tell people about graffiti. I said, people always want to accuse other parts of the city of being responsible. I said, you got graffiti in your area? I said, you put a pin right where graffiti's at, and you draw a map within a half a mile circumference around a graffiti, and those are the individuals who are tagging your neighborhood. They're not coming across the whole town, not coming from the town next door. These are knuckleheads that live right around the corner from you, down the street from you. Little Johnny and Janie that skips along to school, tags at the wall as they go to the bus. Like I said, I remember my days as a cop getting a call for a family disturbance, and you go into the room and the mom and dad are scared to go in their own kid's room, talking about who has this privacy. I said, who pays the rent here? Who pays the mortgage here? Because I sure it ain't that 13, 14-year-old kid. And when I go into the room, it's all tagged up from the baseboards to the roof. And I said, well, guess who the neighborhood tagger is? He lives down the hallway from you. And you too scared to go in his room to check what's going on. So I say a lot of things happen on a lot of levels. There's a lot of problems in our family makeup, as far as parents want to be friends instead of parenting. We don't have adequate consequences for abnormal or unlawful behavior. Everybody wants to give everybody a chance.
So,
I was just thinking about this today because I heard voices back behind my fence. And when I was a kid, if a neighbor came to my house and said something about your kid was doing, I would get drug in and questioned
Mm-hmm.
and yelled at.
Yeah.
One day I came home and my deck was covered in those little plastic airsoft pellets. And I know the neighbor kid back behind the fence, was over there all that week shooting airsoft pellets with his friends. So I'm sitting out there, I'm picking up these airsoft pellets that are stuck in the cracks all over everything in the plants, and I'm out there. I end up with the big double just handful of these things. I walk back along the fence line, back over to the neighbor's house, rang the doorbell. The guy answered the door, and I said, here, these belong to your son. And I said, I appreciate it if he doesn't start, if he stops shooting those airsoft pellets back towards my house, because I have to pick this up. He said, how do you know it was my son's? Because our houses face back to back.
Right.
And they're all over the place. Your son has an airsoft gun, and he goes, there's lots of kids in the neighborhood that have airsoft guns. I'm like, yeah, but their houses don't butt up back to back with mine.
Yeah, it's common fucking sense.
His first instinct
It's
was
working.
to say, no, it could be anybody. It's like, I'm asking you to do a decent thing and just stop your kid from shooting back at my house. That's all you gotta do. Talk to your kid. No,
Don't want to take accountability for the kid's action. Like I say, don't want to be a parent.
Yep.
You know, you want to be your kid's best friend because you know who bought the airsoft gun.
Mm-hmm. It's like,
So now it's accountability thing because I'm pretty sure, you know, I'll buy this for you. So, you know, you'll be out here shooting up stuff, and then a few years later we'll up the ante up and go get some real rifles.
yeah, we'll go get you a toy. And I almost guarantee what he was doing was shooting at my cat.
Uh-huh.
hey Jerry,
Hot rod, that looks good.
Yeah,
an
it was good,
FPV,
bud.
an FPV drone that more than meets the 3 nautical miles.
Yeah.
The airplanes are
Mhm.
going to be able to see this thing from like forever away, even in
Yeah, they're
daylight.
gonna call it a UFO.
Yeah, probably. I got 2 more LEDs to put on, but I got to make the wiring harness for those, but you can see the two on the front arms. Those are pointed up, and then the LEDs around the
Jay.
outside, and then
Is that like
LEDs
an
inside
LED
the
rope?
electronics. What's that?
Is that an LED rope around it?
Yes.
Now, is that powered off the same battery or do you have additional battery?
Nope. 6S. Fires
Okay,
it
so-
all.
Okay, so I'm saying, is it, well, obviously it's gonna drain off the flight time if it's charging the
little.
light and the rest of it.
LEDs come on. How much do LEDs pull?
I
Yeah,
can
not
say,
much.
I'm just making observations.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I
They
won't
also have
disagree,
power.
but they won't pull that much. And to be honest, if I want long flight time, I get other drones. This is
Yeah.
my colorful blinged out drone to goof around with.
Well, now you gotta go outside at night and goof around and show us.
No, I
Dre,
don't need to go out at night. I can go out in the daytime, as bright as this thing is.
Dre, it's
Where's
like
it go-
computers. The more RGBs you add, the faster it is.
Mhm. The other thing that is actually different about this drone is, and I can kind of show it. The battery is going to be bottom mount.
Oh. You definitely,
So-
you gotta be careful when you land it.
Yeah. I got a TPU thing to print to put around the batteries.
Oh, okay, guys, you don't wanna have that thing sliding on the asphalt.
Yeah, no, I got it. No,
Do a good smoke
but
show.
That'll
It
be that
should-
one,
it's
that'll be that
interesting
one
'cause
last
all
flight,
the-
he comes sliding in and poof.
all the racing guys run that way because it makes the drone faster and it's better weight balance, top and
Yeah.
bottom.
Mm-hmm.
So, anyways, and I wanted something different from
Joe.
what I already have. So there you go.
Joe said Hot Rod's going to start up the drone, get it up in the air, and it's going to say critical battery
Maybe,
levels.
maybe. I don't know.
So we don't went down a rabbit hole in this discussion. We start off with the vice president. We end up talking about Don's neighbors.
Mhm.
Mm,
Hey, Mark.
but yeah, the vice president basically has two jobs:
Yep.
president of the
Paul.
Senate and take over for the president if he can. That's
Yeah.
it. That's the only defined thing in the Constitution. Everything else is purely assigned.
And I was listening to Justin talk about the debate. I said that debate is what debates are supposed to be about. Talk about policy, but if you're smart, like these two gentlemen were, you talk about the commonality of what each party has and show that if you vote for me, it ain't gonna be much different if you vote for him, because we're all looking for the same thing. 2-car garage, chicken in the pot, and America's great.
Just
You mean they never mentioned lawns once?
just imagine this as far as the vice president. Where's the vice president's house?
Yeah, it's down the street. What do they call it? I
Eh,
passed by when I visit.
It's across the river at
Is it
Annapolis.
across the river? I thought
It's at
it's called
Annapolis.
something.
The vice president's home is at Annapolis. The house is on is
The
at
vice-
Annapolis, the
vice
Naval
president's
Academy.
Official residence.
Yeah, the official
However, he
residence.
Oh,
owns a
official residence.
multi-million-dollar house in California.
Oh yeah, they had that before she even.
Yep.
That was the hubby's house.
So it's not even. I don't know if Annapolis is considered Washington D.C. It's the Washington
No,
D.C.
it's Maryland.
area, but it's not in Washington D.C.
No, Annapolis in Maryland.
Yeah. So that should tell you how much they thought about the vice president.
Oh yeah, I'm
Well,
sure they're. I'm
They
sure
put the
they're living in
residents outside
squalor.
of D.C.
Squalor.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure they're living in squalor in their 30-bedroom mansion.
I gotta go, so I'll talk to you all guys.
Hi,
later.
Frank. Thanks
Hi,
for
Frank.
Hi, buddy.
Appreciate you popping in.
Well, I guess they've got to be far enough apart that one airstrike doesn't hit the White House and the Vice President's house at the same time.
Well, Mark, that design was built back in the 1700s. So I'm sure they wasn't talking about no.
They didn't have airstrikes by the.
Yeah, I'm sure airstrikes was not in the plan back then.
More than likely, yeah.
You know, I didn't see much of the debate, but I heard that the one guy made a lot of sense, and the other guy completely didn't make any sense.
I don't
Oh,
know about
and the one guy told the truth while the other guy was lying the entire time.
No, I think they both
Possibility.
did good, but I think JD did a little bit better.
So Donald just defined politics.
Mm-hmm. It depends on which circle you want to sit in. That's what you're going to hear.
Yep.
Well, I just go back to the point that it was actually a very good debate that brought, if people were looking at or lived along, long enough, as Paul and I and Dom and I think Joe's in the chat, that we remember debates when we came up and
Yeah.
how we discussed policies, and it wasn't the one-liner zingers, it wasn't the little snipes, it was about
Or
policy.
the little guy, gotcha.
Right.
I
the
always
gotcha
go back
moment.
to I didn't like Phil Donahue at the time, but I miss Phil Donahue because he would bring people on that he hated, that he totally disagreed with politically, and he would ask them questions and listen to their answer,
Right.
and
That's
they
the
would
way you got
answer, and then he would ask another question.
Yeah.
Oh, I give credit to Bill Maher because he does the same thing. He has people on his show all the
No,
time
not
that are
not
complete
not
opposite.
the Phil Donahue.
No, but I'm saying I give Bill Maher credit. I don't agree with everything, but I think he's a little bit more sensible than other people on his side.
Hmm.
And he does bring
Maybe.
up people that are completely opposing arguments on his. He has Ben Shapiro on his show quite a few times, and Ben Shapiro don't agree with nothing.
Two
He's on
sharp
HBO,
things.
right?
Do what?
He's on HBO, right?
Well, he's on.
There we go.
He's on. Yeah, HBO. He has a regular show HBO, but I think one of the networks picked him up like an hour.
I don't know. I watch his
Oh.
clips on YouTube, so I'm not sure which network he's on.
See, I watched his Politically Incorrect back in the was it 90s? Late 90s, early 2000s. He had a show called Politically Incorrect. And he got canceled. He was one of the early cancel culture kind of things when he was talking about 9/11 and how the hijackers on 9/11, he says, you have to admit they were courageous and in their beliefs. And they're like, oh, he complimented them. He said they were courageous. It's like, no, courageous isn't a compliment. It's a statement of fortitude.
Right.
He's not saying they're right, but he got canceled for that.
Well, like I said, they were committed to their cause.
Yeah.
That's all it was.
A lot of people are.
Doesn't mean they were right. But he stated fact and he got canceled because it was right after 9/11.
Damn it. Amazon needs to hurry up.
We were in a bit of a hysteria at that point.
Are you in the Neo pool there, Rod?
Hell no.
Okay.
Well, some areas don't have gas, so that's why FedEx and UPS aren't delivering.
I guess they also
but
they
they
also need a
shouldn't
few
have-
roads, according to news report. Some places don't even have roads anymore.
No, I saw a thing earlier today about they were grounding, or Buttigieg whatever his name is, was asking that drone pilots not fly in this zone.
Mhm.
'Cause
Of course not. You're not
and-
supposed to fly around fires, wildfires.
It's
And shit.
But then I saw online people saying, "Oh, it's a conspiracy. The government doesn't want you to see." It's like, no, you idiot.
Oh, I watch him too, Brenda.
No, because they're trying to fly around and do their own evaluations. So
And I watch Charlie Kirk too. I like Charlie Kirk.
Well,
But
there's
drones could help rescue people. It's like, yeah, he said all these consumer drones stay out. We have people working it.
Well,
And that's why I told what's his
think
name, Al Cicerone. He was talking about getting a group. I said, well, Al, contact the local authorities. My training is involved with first response and stuff like that. I said, FEMA can't be everywhere at all times. And now you're talking about a storm that's impacted up to about 4 different states. And like I said, there are some towns that have been literally wiped off the map with flooding and the rain and the tornado stuff. And I said, but go through the local authorities, see what they need. If they need
yeah,
you,
exactly.
great. If they don't need you, they'll tell you they don't need you. Because I think he reached out to the FEMA And they already told him no. I said, yeah, FEMA's always going to tell you no.
FEMA,
But,
yeah, I saw reports where FEMA has been turning away a lot of help because
Yeah.
it's not through approved vendors.
Right.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like-
it's the government thing on purchase orders and all
here,
that kind of
but
stuff.
here's the thing. FEMA will give money for illegal immigrants, but yet they don't have enough money for this response.
Well, the money for FEMA comes out of Congress, Andrew.
Yeah.
Well, what Andrew's
don't- they
talking
don't
about
have
was
their
the
own
reports that FEMA has been spending money on the migrant crisis all year, and they are out of
Yeah.
money. Or
I'll be
they're
back,
saying they're
guys.
about
Right.
out
So
of money.
Congress has to approve
Enjoy,
more
Paul.
money for this storm because they're
Hey,
talking
Paul
about,
ran
I
off.
I
Paul
think
might
it's
be
in
interested in
Asheville.
the show.
I want to think it's Asheville, North Carolina, maybe it'd be South Carolina. They're talking about how FEMA has been there for the last 13 months from the last storm
Hmm.
that hit. So they've already been there for over a year
Well,
trying to do work.
I will say from my experience here in Joplin, when the tornado hit,
Mhm.
FEMA didn't help. Right after the tornado hit, it was all local, and
Right.
it was help coming in.
Oh.
That was what really got us on our feet. FEMA
Right.
came in later.
Right. And that's
And-
what I was trying to tell one guy. He was trying to tell Al that no, you don't need to do this. FEMA's got it covered. I said, no, FEMA cannot have everything covered.
No.
I said FEMA may show up several days. It may be a week for FEMA gets its foot on the ground and be able to handle things.
First
Like I told them,
responders
I
are
said-
always local.
Yeah,
Step on in, Joe.
I told them, I said, what you guys can do now in concert with the local authorities is be able to have real-time information for the FEMA people when they show up. Okay, FEMA, like I said, the roads have been taken out, all this kind of stuff. FEMA would need that information to know how to stage whatever equipment, gear, and staff that they have
Mhm.
to expedite the recovery effort of the area that they're going to be working in. Like I told them, I said, drones, the biggest things drones do in a disaster area is not search and rescue. It's for GIS purposes, to be able to provide up-to-date mapping for the devastated area, so we would know where to allocate the resources to help out
for-
the different.
For the most devastated areas, they should send in the drone first so they know what equipment they'll need to clear and get.
They
That's what I'm
have.
saying. That's why I
They
said
have.
you work with local
Yeah.
authorities and first responders to use your drones for that purpose.
Speaking of drones, I ran into something yesterday that was rather interesting.
That is.
Who,
Yep.
And
who'd
it,
you run into?
and it could be used for camera drones too. It's a
You can-
self-powered buzzer.
Oh.
Interesting.
You could stick it to the drone. So, you
What-
know, FPV drones have the buzzer and
What-
you can flip the switch on the remote. With
Oh, in
this
case it
thing,
goes
you don't
down?
have to wire it to the flight controller. You don't have to do anything. You just put this thing in the drone. So it's got a motion sensor gyro something or other that figures out that the drone crashed and sets the beeper off.
I'm
Mhm.
guessing as long as it's moving, it's not going to go off. But once it's become inert for a certain amount of time, it'll start buzzing.
Or or hits something or suddenly stops.
I saw
Yeah,
it
it
stop,
figures
maybe,
it out
yeah.
based on gyro that the drone crashed and that sets the thing off. One guy said the thing lasted at least 2 days.
Mm.
It beeped for 2 days.
Yeah, I saw a video on that on YouTube. Quite a while back.
Yeah, that's what I was reading. Everybody's like, "Yeah, this thing works great." And I'm like, "Hey, that's kind of cool." A device you just Velcro to your drone, and if it crashes, the beeper's gonna go off. And it's easier for FPV because, well, then I could stick it wherever the hell I want to stick it and don't have to worry about soldering the damn thing to the flight controller
Oh yeah.
to operate the beeper. So, because I got a beeper to put on this drone, and the beepers get 3 wires, and the flight controllers get 2 pads. And I'm like, how's this supposed to work?
Dre, can this be used for the, say, the Air 3?
Sure.
Sure,
You
it's just an
Velcro it to
add-on
the drone.
accessory. Got the 3M tape right there.
Yeah.
Just
You
tape
just
it on there.
Use
tape
it
it
on
onto
the-
the drone.
Use it on the Air 3. You can put it in that little compartment that they've got for the,
So
what's it, the
Eh,
dongle.
every so often you can replace that 3M tape, right?
Sure.
Most likely, yeah.
'Cause
But
I
it's
just
a
know
great
after-
it's a great little way to put a beeper on a camera drone, because camera drones don't have beepers.
Mm-mm.
So they get
Well,
lost in the
they-
high grass or up in the tree and you can't see it.
They,
Mm,
they have. They have
You know what,
If
Rod, they used to have 'em. I remember my old original Mavic Pro. It beeped if
Yeah.
if you turn on the searching for the drone type of thing, it would
Mhm.
beep till the battery went dead.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know
think-
yeah,
about
but
the
this
new
is a
one.
hell of a lot louder.
Yeah, a lot of them do have that.
Yeah,
Uh,
I guess it's one of the things where I haven't never had to use it, so I never really worried about it.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, so I remember my original Mavic Pro had that, and I don't know about anything going forward.
JDS, Dusty.
Because I don't think the Phantoms had it. I'm
You
not
can
sure.
fly around in the country where there's trees and tall grass and corn, and
Right.
if the thing goes down,
It's a good idea.
Well, if
It'd be
there's
useful.
tree, well, let's always remember trees are dicks if you're flying a drone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure the Mini 4 Pro hasn't got it.
I'm pretty sure
Dustin
trees have nothing to do
Dunhills
with
is
it.
still Dustin Dunhills is still stuck up a tree somewhere.
Don't.
So anyways.
I don't agree with trees are dicks. You need to go out and hug a
but-
tree.
But
Trees are
at
mis-
times, trees are
Trees are often
have-
maligned. They've done nothing wrong. They sit there. They're busy making oxygen
You're-
for you to breathe, and then you
You're
fly
trying
sideways
to-
into them. It's not the tree's fault. It's your fault.
So I
you're
guess
trying
Don's a
to bring the
tree hugger.
drone up and you fly boom to the
Yeah.
tree.
That doesn't make the tree a dick. That makes you an idiot.
Actually, it makes the twig. It's not really the tree, it's the twig.
Some trees are twigs, yeah.
It's
You
the
feel-
twig attached to the tree.
Your real problem is if you lose connection
Yeah.
or
Hmm.
your battery gets to the point where it's
Drones
doing
are
an
dicks.
automatic
But
return to
return
home.
to
dicks
home
for
should
losing
work in
connection.
Under a
case of
tree at the
camera drones.
time.
Well, I can always say, from my standpoint, that's all part of your pre-flight inspection.
Well, you're not likely to be flying under a tree doing the work you do, are you?
No,
No,
there's
it doesn't matter.
reason
He's-
for that.
He's
He'll
got to
probably
worry
fly
about
in-
power lines.
You got to worry about
But
power
it-
lines, guy lines.
Right?
But if you're
And
in
so
North Carolina,
before
if
you
you're in,
before you fly, you should be saying, "Okay, I'm going to fly in this area," and you should do a walk around.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
No one does a walk around. They throw it up in the air and fly, and I'll see it when I get there.
if you're up near Maggie Valley, Asheville, North Carolina-ish, you may not be able to even fly because there's so many helicopters right now.
There's a TFR in place.
Yeah.
I thought that was because Joe Biden was in the area too.
Well, that adds to it. But anytime you have a natural disaster type thing,
Yeah.
flooding, fires, whatever, earthquake,
Mhm.
a TFR is going
long-
to be within hours.
Yeah, as long as this is going to be taking place, as long as the
Emergency services are
emergency
there.
service is going to be there, they're going to have the TFR in place.
Yeah,
You're not
and
going to
that's
have
why I
it for
tell-
like a local
yeah.
house fire, but for something this large, you're going to
Yeah.
have it there for a while.
And that's why I tell people about contacting your local authorities, because a TFR doesn't say you can't just fly,
Mm-mm.
but if you get authorization,
You need authorization to fly
your
in the area.
drone, you show proof of that authorization that they need you to fly that area, you can still get an unlock from DJI or
Yep.
whatever else, and from the FAA.
Just like you, Dre,
Go to-
you've gone through training for the staging for that. So if they needed you
So-
and it was close to you, you could go down there and you could volunteer your services, and they'd say, "Okay, we do need help," and then you would get an unlock and you could fly the TFR.
Because all you got to do is
So-
send on letterhead from the local authority, send it to DJI,
So,
Unlock.
unlock.
so
The-
as of 107, Dre, what's
Mhm.
your thing on the latest for the ban?
Uh, like I said, we dodged another bullet, but how long can we keep dodging bullets? Somebody's going to get a good aim, and it's going to stick eventually.
Mhm.
I
So
think that it's going to somebody's going to find a way to not try to or need to hide this under some other legislation, and it's just going to get passed. The House has already shown they already got cross the aisle support in the House. So now all I got to do is find out what's going to be that key figure for the Senate.
because we've all seen.
Nobody at the White House has said a word about, oh, I'm never going to go for that.
Oh, it's because the White House was just in Atlanta.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying that, no matter who gets elected, Trump or whatever, no one is, as you say, is our friend. So the Senate is the only thing that's keeping us, and I think the only reason the Senate is slowing everything down is because of the pressure from all the first responders who have been bombarding senators and regular elected Congress people and everything else, that at least the senators are listening. Because like I said, either you're going to need money or numbers. If you got both, you got a whole lot of pull. And police associations, fire associations are very powerful unions. Very powerful. And they carry a lot of weight. Like I said, if somebody wants to get lose their seat, go up against your local first responders and see what happens.
If anybody's looking for a drone off a ship, good luck waiting, because there's a longshoreman's strike.
Yeah.
Well, anybody who's bought a drone is already here in the United States. Ain't nothing being shipped. It's already here.
Yeah. This
All
is
the-
going to impact a month and a half down the road.
Yeah.
Just
so
wait
when
till we stop the television and media using drones as well.
Are you there, Mr. Stickler?
Who cut your hair, Justin?
So Dre, they
Good
should
question.
do like they should do like they did with semiconductors. The CHIPS Act. They should do like
Yeah.
the Drone Act to fund American.
Well, we've all said that from the very start when they started this.
And then
CCP
transition DJI out, right? It's really not the idea of what they want to do.
Hey, Corey.
I'll just tell you, as a guy who worked on the
Corey.
CERT team in the military, they're right. And I'll just leave it at that. But instead of cutting that out, like everything with the government, you need to put something in place to replace it, right?
Right.
If you had that, then nobody would complain quite so hard about what you're doing.
I mean, it's similar to like I tell people who've been around like we have when it was a big anti-Japanese thing against the automakers. And what they do, they eventually got all the Japanese automakers to build plants over here, and kept a lot of the other auto workers in still making a living.
That is DJI. That is what there's two things that DJI could do. And I shared this one story about what Microsoft did in Germany, because Germany passed a privacy law that was even harder and tighter than GDPR for Europe. And so we wanted to put our cloud services over there. We literally built a data center, stocked it, put everything in it, handed it over to a German company to run, so that the U.S. court system couldn't say, hey, we want that data off of this. It's not ours. It's theirs.
Right.
DJI could have did the same thing. They could have outsourced the distribution of the software, because it's the software that's the problem, right? And the servers. They could have literally outsourced that to a company in the U.S. and said, you guys run it for the U.S. and leave it here. They could ship updates to that company, but that company would still have to do their security audits and all that kind of crap before they would, push it out. And that problem would have been solved.
Right. Like I said, there's so many options.
There's ways to overcome the security concerns. The concerns are real, because I'm telling you from day one.
I don't argue about the potential at all. But like I say, all these options could have been exercised, but they need to be exercised 2 or 3 years ago. And I'm like, this whole anti-Chinese thing is not nothing new. It didn't show up in the last 6 months or the last year. This has been a growing sentiment for the last decade and a half.
Yeah, a little longer than that.
Yeah.
I like
I
to say it's probably
retired
longer than that,
almost
but-
20 years ago, and it was back then too. So
Right. So I understand that, this is people thinking that, oh, we'll just keep doing what we're doing and turn a blind eye, or, we'll put our blinders on to think that we're going to be exempt from whatever else they're thinking over there. And I said, not now your company's at the crossroads of losing probably about a good 45% of its market.
Wow.
Because like I say, here in America, nobody buys gadgets like we do.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
We are
the interesting
gadget-
part is a
gadget
lot of those
fetish
companies are moving
society.
out of China.
Yeah, we are a gadget fetish society here in America, and we think we gotta have every little gadget that comes out the window.
Vietnam is taking over a lot of the clothing.
Mhm.
Well,
Some
they
of the
have.
some of the tech stuff is gone to Malaysia and the Philippines.
Well, Vietnam's been in clothing for a few
Yeah,
decades.
well, they're getting more of it because
Oh, yeah.
those companies are moving
Well, the
out.
thing is here, this is where they're getting manufactured, but who is the biggest consumer?
The U.S.
Everybody raise their hand.
Yeah, exactly. The U.S.
Well,
and you know,
I-
we
Apple
are
made
the
that
biggest
big deal
consumer.
that more than
I-
50% of their stuff is made in India now.
I
Yeah.
think all of us at some point have bought something that was made in out that way,
Dude,
So
I
with
could-
the
I could
whole
just-
COVID thing, all the companies woke up to single country source.
Vietnam.
And I can tell you for a fact, because I know some of them. Yeah, let's just say they're moving.
Yeah, well, I'm just saying that, I can talk about my house. All the solar lights I got around my property, all made in China. All the
Yeah.
security cameras around my house, all made in China.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
I can go on a list of everything that's around my house, and I guarantee you it was made China or Malaysia, somewhere else besides USA. And if I want to get it at that same price, I gotta order from them same people.
Half of the crockery in my kitchen is made in China.
So like I say, we're the biggest consumers,
Uh,
and that's why I tell people all the time when they want to complain about, like, people right now are putting little memes up on Facebook talking about, whoa, we make toilet paper and all this stuff here. We wouldn't worry about the dock strikes and stuff. I said, dude, I always tell people, I said, this didn't happen yesterday. This is 60 years plus of this stupidity that we put ourselves into.
Yeah, we outsourced our jobs. The world
That's it.
outsourced their jobs to China.
Right. We outsourced
For a
our
bu-
jobs
for a
to China
buck.
and every other third world country that is paying pennies on a dollar for labor and stuff. And this is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
You get a
So
bunch
back-
of Justins in control.
So
Dyson's are made in China now.
back to the threat part. And here's the reality.
So-
Of course, if you came from a military background, you'd understand this really well. The reality is this: the next war is not only going to be a kinetic war, it's going to be a digital war. And you can bet your ass the Chinese will put bad shit inside of their software that comes to America the day the war starts. Guaranteed. And I can also
Yep.
guarantee you, we will do the exact same thing to them. This will be an
It-
all-out digital war, and people need to understand that part of this get DJI out and all that is preparation. This is all 1930s kind of stuff before World War II. That's kind of what's going on. This is prep.
It's a psychology thing.
We're
You know what-
reopening
scares
air
me, Rob?
bases in the Pacific to station
what's-
planes and distribute our planes better in the Pacific. We're
Hey, you know what
literally
scares me,
setting
Rob?
up.
That
Again?
we'll all have to depend upon a bunch of Justins to fight this war.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Him and his Fortnite crew.
Yeah,
Let's get all the Fortnite people out there and they'll win the war.
but that's the reality, and that's DJI is just getting caught up in that reality. of what's going to go down. Is it-
they'll have
Most
Justin
people
and,
here don't
so-
understand that the Chinese government have banned Microsoft and Google.
Yeah.
Flat
We'll
out
have,
banned them on government stuff. You know why? For the same reason we're trying to ban DJI. Imagine that.
Yep.
So both sides
Has-
are doing the exact same thing.
But has
Hey,
anybody
this
noticed?
thing it is, Don and Rod, we'll have Justin, Laura, and
Matt.
Jason on a little trailer out in the middle of the desert in Nevada directing troops.
You know, maybe someday it'd be like that one Star Trek where they ran across that one planet and the
Hmm.
entire war was a virtual war. It was just computerized and decided, bang, you're dead. Instead of having a real war, they just had this virtual war and
Mhm.
well, hey, you were killed. Go to the evaporator. Anybody remember that episode? It was kind of wild.
Yeah.
It's like
Say,
Really?
has anybody noticed like it's like Armageddon for like things like toilet paper?
Yeah. We've had
Like I
that
said,
problem before.
I've been seeing the stuff on Facebook and I'm just shaking my head. I'm like, what is going on? And it's funny because I took my wife to Costco last week, and that's the main thing we go to Costco for is to buy the large package of paper towels and toilet paper. That's the number one thing we go for, you know. And so I feel like I wonder who is watching us because we had 2 baskets full. Man. I spent about almost $700 in Costco that day, and people are probably looking at us talking about, I knew something was up.
In
700
terms
bucks.
of
$700 these
Yeah.
days.
in terms of selling volume, around here is Walmart and Sam's Club that sell the most toilet paper and paper towels and that sort of stuff.
Right, I only go to Costco about once every 3-4 months, dude. And we got back from this trip, and I mean, filled the freezer up out in the garage, filled up a lot of other crap in the shelving in the garage, and whatever else needed to go in the house. But that's the main thing we go to Costco is just to buy paper towels and toilet paper. If we don't go for anything else, we'll get paper towels and toilet paper.
Yeah.
I've
Buying in
got
Because
bulk
big-
is a good
big
idea
enough
if you
to
got the
put
storage.
that amount of toilet roll and paper in.
About 2 hours south of here, Macon, Georgia, nobody can find any toilet paper.
Yeah.
Panic
I'm
buy.
like,
It's all floated away.
But 90% of the toilet paper is made here in the US.
That's what people don't understand. They think it's on them ships.
Georgia Pacific, to be exact, produces the paper that they use for all that.
Can somebody put in the word for these distributors to please send them to the store?
Andrew, it's all about, I say, the more you sell, the more you need to get back. You'll see the price start going up. So ain't nobody gonna say a word. Let them believe what they believe.
You're not gonna change their mind anyway. So
That's right. It's like during COVID, when people were going there and buying up all the toilet paper stuff. Ain't nobody
Yeah.
get the shits.
Yeah.
That's our next currency, you know that.
Toilet
Toilet
paper.
paper or paper towel?
Toilet paper.
And then is it 2-ply or 4-ply?
question is,
depends-
how are we gonna
depends
get
on
toilet
how
paper?
much you're
How are
gonna-
we gonna get toilet paper to Mars?
Exactly.
I am shocked that you guys are still using toilet paper and haven't switched over to three
Yeah.
shells yet.
Are you saying you switched to bidet?
No, switch to the 3 shells.
Yeah, he's using that. What movie was that? The 3 shells.
Demolition
Cor-
Man
Yeah, Demolition Man. It was
Oh,
on
come
TV.
on.
with
What-
America's Sweetheart Sandra Bullock.
You know
Yeah.
what we had before toilet paper? Corn cobs.
Oh, corn cobs, yeah.
Oh,
For
Mhm.
that,
Like I said, long
Finally-
as there's newsstands around, never be out of toilet paper.
Oh yeah, the newsstands. Yeah. The Sears and
Banana
Roebuck
leaf.
catalog.
Yeah,
Yeah.
banana leaves.
I haven't seen a Sears catalog in
No, you haven't, 'cause they don't
Ages.
exist anymore.
Catalogs don't really
This
exist.
catalog, the pages are too glossy. They're too slippery.
Trouble
But-
is when you use newspaper, your ass ends up black.
I
Yeah,
think
nah.
I think somewhere between Rod and Justin is the last Kmart. alive.
Yeah,
about
there
to
is
close.
exactly one. And then you're right, and I don't remember
One.
where it is.
That's funny because you would think where are they getting their who's their supplier? Because they used to have an actual Kmart brand of stuff.
Because they used to have Craftsman, they used to have, I mean, a whole slew. Like they used to have Die Hard.
Well, Craftsman was a Sears brand. Die Hard
Yeah.
Bodies, one place you could buy them was at Sears, I believe.
Milwaukee ended up buying that.
Oh,
Mm,
is that right?
Mm-hmm. Milwaukee Tools owns it now.
Yep.
The only place
What?
I'm not complaining about is closing up stores, and that's they call it Big Lots now. They were Pick and Save when I grew up. I think they're shutting down another 5 or 6 stores here in Southern California. They say. I looked at my wife and said, "You know, I ain't getting heartbroken over that."
The crazy part is what has happened to malls.
Oh
Mm.
yeah.
They're just like dead.
Then we demolition ours this last year. Yeah.
Well, about half of what made a mall was it was a place where you could go hang out and meet your friends. Now you don't need to
Mm.
go out and meet your friends. You can meet them online.
Yeah, you can
True.
meet them on other
Very
forms.
true.
It's like 50s, 60s, 70s, and just about 80s, wasn't it? Malls.
I was just watching it wasn't a behind the scenes thing, but it was like a general for always YouTube they give you like 10 things you didn't know about a certain movie, and they did one about weird science.
Mhm.
So
Oh
Right,
God,
maybe.
that was a funny movie.
yeah, they're
Right.
talking about how there was another model that actually was the lead actress before they called back Kelly LeBrock because she turned down the role originally, said she didn't want it. And she was in I think somewhere in France vacationing. They called her again and begged her to come back. And she
It
did.
was actually it also turned into a TV series as well.
Yeah, it had a short run TV series, but the original
With
movie was
Vanessa Angel was the girl.
yeah. And they're talking about
Exactly, Edward. Exactly.
I'd love to be doing that too. I would have loved to have programmed a woman myself.
If
Well,
you can figure out how to get 21.1 gigawatts, you can go back or gigawatts, you can go back in time.
21 gigawatts.
Well, Dominic, looking at you and Dre sitting side by side, you guys wouldn't look unnatural with a bra across your heads.
Yeah. Believe me. Been there, done that.
and they're talking about in that little clip there how you remember the girl who was playing the piano during the party,
Hmm.
and then the big wind suck thing came through and they
Mhm.
took all her clothes off.
Yep.
She was
Yep.
actually Playmate of the Year. I forgot her name,
Yep.
but she was actual Playmate of the Year. So they kind of got their money's worth out of her.
Hmm.
Well, if I put my
See-
head in my camera shot, then we can do an impersonation of Eccentrica Columbus.
Yeah.
And they were talking about how the younger, the smaller guy, I don't know how he's young, but he was only 15 in the lead role. Not Anthony Hall, but the other kid. And they were talking about he had a kissing scene with Kelly LeBrock.
Uh-huh.
And the kid was so excited about kissing her, he actually slipped her the tongue. She cut him
Hey,
off
Jim.
and said, "Don't you do that again."
How you doing, Jim?
Jim.
What was her tongue doing in his mouth so he could bite it?
Exactly.
He slipped her the tongue.
And he put his
Well-
tongue in her mouth.
Yeah.
Somebody got a little excited.
Well, he
I-
can't bite
I'd have
her
been
tongue.
I'd have been excited right there along with him.
I think we'd all do that.
Yeah.
Not without checking it first.
Yeah. So did Paul go to
The-
go fly or what?
Yeah, he went to
yes,
go fly.
Yes.
Okay.
Rod, when will people slow down when conditions are bad?
If we
Slow
see a
down with
boat,
what?
is that a boat?
When will
spin?
people slow down when conditions are bad on the road?
When they start sliding off the road.
Mhm. Down here in Florida, it's when they can't see because it's raining so hard. Then they slow down.
Well, here some of the traffic lights are out, so people don't know how to stop at a traffic light.
They never
Hmm.
learn how to stop at a blind intersection.
So one car hit the other so hard, one car flipped. That just happened as of 5 minutes ago.
Oh, I gotta go
You
start
know,
dinner.
every state that I know of, if a traffic light is
Right
out,
on.
the intersection's supposed to be treated like a four-way stop.
Correct, like a
Yeah.
blind intersection.
End of story, like every state. So
Yeah.
why anybody doesn't understand that, I don't know.
In the old days, over here, when a traffic light went out, they
Just
used to
like
send
this.
a policeman out to direct traffic.
Yeah,
Can you see that?
points duty. We still have that.
So
I'm-
you want an
I don't-
interesting story on this topic though? So I was down in Mexico City and the customer drove me back to the hotel. And we went through intersections that had no stop sign and no stoplights and no policemen's.
Good luck.
So I so I asked the guy, how the hell do they figure out who goes first? He had a really interesting answer. The
to
guy
get-
with the most banged up car, because everybody knows
Yeah.
he doesn't give a shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All the people with the largest balls, really.
Just like, oh my God.
pretty much the same as that in Paris.
That'll make you scratch your head.
Well, one of my old teachers, another one made fun of the other for having, because his car is so small, they called it a Campbell soup can car.
Yeah.
Four stops away. I need Amazon. Hurry up and get the fuck here.
Mhm.
It's got the wiring kit that I need to
Rod,
put the
you-
LEDs on the back arms.
You know, part of the time it ends up being a postal service.
No, this is Amazon. I can see him. I can see him. I see the truck. No, the wires that come with the LEDs aren't long enough, so I ordered a kit that I think has the same connectors because I have the larger versions of those connectors and they don't fit. So I'm hoping this 1 millimeter, the 3-pin connector actually connect to these LEDs because
So
it actually comes with some longer wires to make the thing with. So
Jim, if anybody asks, I do not recommend going up towards I-40 in North Carolina because it is closed.
yeah, I imagine a lot in that area is closed.
Part of I-40 is closed and part of 26 is closed in North Carolina. But you get to South Carolina, it's open.
I need to think about dinner. I don't know what I went for dinner. Need to go fix
I'm
something.
predicting Rod might want a burger with
Mm-mm.
cheese.
Not on my diet.
Steak.
I've lost 70 pounds since December, so no, not on my diet.
You gotta have a cheat day, Rod.
No. The cheat day is is an extra snack of low fat, low carb.
Mac salad?
Or an extra big steak.
Yeah, steak. That's what I said. Steak.
Yeah, but that's
Like a
that's on,
tomahawk.
that's on my keto diet that I've been following for a long time too. So
Yeah, Jim.
Tomahawk. Yeah, get yourself one of them.
I don't mind keto.
Jim, if you want to see some images, look up Bear Mountain in North Carolina and Maggie Valley and Chimney Rock.
You know, that reminds me, while I'm sitting here waiting, probably look and see what the hell I did with the battery protector that I downloaded off Yegi. Oh, there it is. Wonder how thick he made this damn thing. I need to measure my batteries to make it fit mine.
Anybody ever have much experience with, say, a generator?
I have 2 of them. Because
What do you recommend for, say, a regular 26 cubic foot fridge?
Just get an EcoFlow battery backup.
What
How long does that last?
It depends how much voltage the thing pulls. It'd
ampage?
probably hold it for 12 plus hours. You just need a generator to charge the EcoFlow backup, and it only takes an hour to charge the EcoFlow. So you can actually save a lot of
Who
gas
charges
by
the
having
gener- But who
EcoFlows around.
charges the generator that charges the EcoFlow then? So you need another charger to charge the chargers.
A,
So
a
it's gonna be
charger for the
never-ending. Yeah, it's going to be.
Dominic,
It's
generator.
a never-ending story. You've got
Dominic, a charger for the charger.
Is the charger.
A
then you
charger
just
for the charger for the
adding
charger
charges.
that supplies the power.
Yeah, so we're just going to keep going down the line, almost like a Fabergé egg.
I think he meant a petrol generator.
Oh, okay then. But you still got to
But
get paid for
Guesstimate how much are they, Rod?
Depends on what size you get.
What ampage fuse
Are
is
they?
Yeah.
Anywhere from
Are-
$5,000 to $7,000 to $10,000.
No.
Where I'm talking about a natural gas generator sits out behind your house.
Oh.
I was thinking something smaller to run the fridge. If
You
we
can
lose
pick-
power again.
just run the fridge,
a-
run the whole
a-
household on a generator.
You can probably
6,500
pick 'em up
watt
for 3 or 4
generator is
three
probably
or 400.
$500 at Lowe's.
No,
Yeah.
3.5 kilowatts.
Yeah.
At this
Megawatt.
point, Rod, you're better off
Kilowatts.
ordering one.
Yeah, kilowatts. 3.5 megawatts would do as well.
Very few places around here would have any generators at all for miles.
Just get yourself a small modular
Oh, a
nuclear,
handheld one, yeah.
put it in the backyard, and you're good to go.
Mm.
So, do you think a small Honda should do the trick, Rod?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Very easy. A small Honda can be up to like 8,500 watts.
Yeah, 8.5 kilowatt.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It says the fridge
Carefully-
draws, I think.
If you carefully plan
maybe-
your usage, you can easily get away with it. It's all about carefully planning.
Fridge is only
It
drawing
says
about
it's
10 amps at the most.
defrosting input.
Yeah, 20 I would have put it down for.
Well, no, it's got a 13.5 amp fuse in it.
Yeah. But then you've got
Right.
TVs, your internet, and a couple of other
The
lights.
internet probably won't be up.
I know, but I'm just saying the one main thing would be a hairdryer. So I'm out, so I don't need one. So I'm not wasting 2,400 watts.
Dominic's
Hundred-
concerned about his hair.
Kettle and
About-
top.
It says rating on the fridge is 115 volts.
Oh, we're
Yeah,
talking
they're
watts,
all 115 volts, Andrew. It's the
not
amps
over
that
here.
matter.
It's all about the wattage.
The amps.
You know how many
The
watts?
amps. Yeah.
3.1.
3.1 amps.
'Cause
To a
we're
ba-
carefully
Windmill.
calculating what the wattage would be.
Windmill.
So,
Good one, Dusty.
as I said, I can save 2,400 by not using a hairdryer at least. So
we
okay,
just
trouble is I'm going to lose out because I've got a 1,000 watt microwave. So
Yeah.
who's got a buffer? We can just do a little spuff shine.
But that
Yeah.
1,000 watts is radiated power from its Solfan head rather than
understandably,
the
yes.
amount of power that it consumes off your grid.
But if you use that as a guide, then you'll be able to work out how
Hi,
much.
Justin.
No, he's still there.
What?
You
What?
still here?
He's still here.
I'm still
He's
here. I
still
was just
here.
working on something.
Someone dropped out.
Oh, so what?
Dre dropped
Dre.
out.
Hi,
Dre
Dre.
was the one that dropped out.
But do you have much for a generator down there, Justin?
I don't have a generator at all.
Did you ever think about one?
I mean, yeah, but they're not cheap.
Yeah, but
They're expensive.
$600 for
Is it-
roughly.
do you think it's worth it to save what's in your fridge and freezer?
Well,
I
who you
mean-
should be asking is Ron Lockwood, because didn't he have a whole bunch of bear meat in a couple of
Yeah.
freezers out in his garage? And
Yeah.
Yeah, he lost
that
two,
was
two things. on
that
me.
was a wiring issue.
Yep.
Yeah, there wasn't a power issue. It was just that was he had a
The
crappy
wiring
wiring done in his garage.
77.
That's the
And
was
his generator
tripping the
never took
breaker.
over.
yeah, Justy. We need the flux capacitor.
It don't make so much difference to us anyway because your house insurance policy covers the loss of food in your freezer.
Does it do you any good when you're hungry?
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
We've got
Get away from him
takeaways.
to pay out.
But you got to make sure you have stuff in the freezer.
Not really.
I mean, if you're out of power for more than a
Yeah,
week,
Amazon
you can
delivered.
file. You can file for FEMA assistance, and they'll cut you a big ass check. Take a couple weeks, but you'll get it.
Hmm.
At the rate FEMA moves, and the
definitely.
amount of money
Have to-
FEMA has,
Definitely.
The
But if you
rule
use
was
100 hamsters, it'll
Yes,
it'll
Dusty.
work quicker.
the
well,
rule that was when I filed for it when Irma came through was you had to be out of power for at least a week, and we were exactly 7 days when we filed for it. We were out for 1 week, and they gave me two $1,400 checks to cover food and any losses. I got them
I
about
think
3 weeks.
we were out for like 4 days. If we had been out for maybe another 2 days, I would have lost the freezer.
We have a power cut. It very rarely lasts more than about 2 hours.
Well, it's a LG fridge.
So what'd you
freezer.
do for 4 days? Just sit there bored staring at the wall? Because you don't realize
walk
how
the
much
dog- we ha-
entertainment you have until you lose power.
I had a we have a battery powered hidden radio. It's AA.
So you just listen to the radio the whole time?
A lot of time, yeah. What else were we gonna do?
That's what I said. When you don't realize how much entertainment you have throughout the day until you lose power.
Yeah,
Or you lose
Well,
internet because majority of people's shit runs off the internet now.
yeah, we were bored. I thought about that and realized I didn't have power. I was gonna see if I could pull shows off the Spectrum DVR box, but they locked the box.
And see, power is like used to be the main source for a household. Now you rely on two different things. You could have power, but if you don't have any internet, most 90% of people's shit in their house won't run on unless it's the internet's on. As far as like TVs and some alarm systems and different things like that.
Our house phones now work off the internet.
Yeah, it's not
part-
even a true house phone. It's just a phone that plugs into the modem, and that's it.
Yeah.
Here you can't always get a very good signal if you're sitting in the house, unless you're on Wi-Fi.
That's what I'm saying. Your house, not your mobile phone, your landline, actually
Yeah.
plugs into your router nowadays.
Who has a landline?
Nobody even has them anymore.
Nobody,
Like
not many anymore.
in our town, our landlines are all gone. Like they don't exist anymore. Businesses, even businesses, they run off a central network, all their phones. They're not hooked to
We
the.
still have landlines.
At where I used to live, there still is a landline in the house, but they'd have to get a new number.
Yeah, but there's probably not infrastructure for it anymore. A lot of places have abandoned all the infrastructure for it because they've gone to all fiber and internet services. They run a lot of the phone lines through the
Very
internet
funny,
now.
JD.
Like
You
if you
switched
go around,
accounts, JD.
if you go around my town, you'll see the old telephone boxes, and they've started removing them. But half of them, you would drive by, and the cover would be ripped off, and all the cables would be ripped out of them. Like you could tell that they hadn't touched them in years. Like there's one in our back corner of our backyard that's been there for years, and the cover's like half torn off, and a bunch of phone lines are just hanging out of it.
You said you lived in California, right?
Who, me?
Yes.
Yeah, before I moved to Florida.
I
Yeah.
heard not far from where you lived, somebody recently was up on the telephone lines, taking apart the telephone line to steal the copper right out of the
Oh,
line.
that happens weekly here. They steal all the copper from the train lines.
Oh, dude, there was two overpass bridges out in California, my old town I lived in, that had aluminum railing going across the top, and they came in the middle of the night and stole all the railing off of two bridges. And these weren't little bridges neither; these were big bridges, and they
With
put
the
out
great
like
big
a
railing and stuff.
yeah, but it was
Oh.
made out of industrial, like an aluminum grade, and they were going to try to scrap it, but they put out like a 6-state APB out for this aluminum that if anybody in any of the states near California, they put a thing out to all the scrap yards to look out for it. And my uncle had a guy that used to come to his house and pick up scrap once every like 2 or 3 months, because my uncle ran a shop out of his house. He had a big garage that he built on the side of his house, and he would have piles of scrap. And one of the guys showed up to his house with the fucking railings on the trailer. And my uncle knew that they were looking for him. My uncle told him, "Get the fuck out of my yard and get out of here." He goes, "Don't ever come back to my house again."
Your uncle's thinking, aren't those the railings from the bridge just over here?
Oh, he reckoned you couldn't mistake them. I mean, these railings
He
were.
didn't want to get that deeply involved.
Yeah, he told the guy, I was there visiting when it happened, and he told the guy, I was standing outside. He told the guy, he said, "Those are the railings from the missing bridge. Get the fuck out of my yard and don't ever come back to my house again." And the guy got in his truck and took off, and my uncle called the cops and let the sheriffs know that the guy that had him, and they went and picked him up because my uncle didn't want to get involved in it. It was $250,000 worth of aluminum railing that was missing.
Wow.
Yeah, they were in a lot of trouble for that.
That's a lot of money.
At least that's what apparently that's what they estimated the value of it. It was around $250,000. And my uncle was pissed when the guy pulled up in his yard. He's like, "I don't want nothing to do with this. Get the fuck out of my yard and don't ever come back here again."
But Dusty is calling you is suggesting you're crazy because of what happened with Hurricane Ian and not having a generator.
I mean, you can have a generator. I mean, a small generator is only going to do so much for you. I mean, you'll be able to run a couple of little things off of it. Well, like I said, generators aren't expensive. You want a generator to run your whole house, you're talking a lot of money.
Yeah, I just want
And
to
yeah, and generators can be a lot of maintenance too. It is what it is. I mean,
Yeah. So would you go the generator route or the large battery route?
Depends on what you're trying to power.
The fridge, and maybe a couple of lights. That's about it.
Well, what are you gonna do if the power outage lasts longer than what that batteries can handle?
You can
I
charge
guess I,
with solar.
I
Buy another charger.
there is
Get a
a
sol-
there are
get a
solar
panel.
there
Yeah.
are solar generators where you connect
Solar panels.
solar.
I mean,
Yes.
There's houses that have solar panels around here, but I don't know if I would trust those in Cat 4, Cat 5 winds. Like, cause they leave about a 2-inch buffer between the roof and the solar panel. And in my mind, all I could see is wind getting under there and ripping those fucking things right off of a roof.
Yeah. Because
So I don't know how well those would do.
last
You can-
Friday morning we had 80-mile-an-hour winds.
You can charge up Jackeries and EcoFlow stuff with portable solar panels.
Yeah, but even those systems are not cheap either. You're talking some of those solar panels alone could be $800 to $1,200.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not cheap. Any which way you look at it, you get a Jackery system or even an anchor system with solar panels, you could be looking at anywhere between 1,200 to $3,000, depending on how nice of a one you want to get.
Be quiet, you. Oh,
You know, and the sad
Yeah,
part
well-
of it is those people that went through the hurricane, doesn't make a difference whether they have generators or not. It's game over.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like Corey's saying, some people's solar panels aren't designed to store energy. Like they don't have a battery bank anywhere. They might just power the house during the daytime. Some people feed energy back into the grid. And they might get, at nighttime, they may just run off of regular power, but they're not actually spending any money because they're putting money back in the grid.
What-
It just depends. You have to have a whole battery bank set up too if you want solar panels to be able to run your house without any electric.
uh-huh.
Speaking
Yeah,
of Jason,
Jason does have the anchor system, and that bitch wasn't cheap neither.
speaking of Jason, where is Jason?
That setup Jason has probably was anywhere between 12 to $2,000 easy.
I thought he was off playing Fortnite.
Yeah, like the Tesla systems have giant batteries. Yeah, you can get that. But like I said, I don't know if I would trust solar panels to survive a hurricane. Because you got to worry about
Yeah,
shift smacking them and everything else.
Trees crushing them, yeah.
So you're
Right, you
saying
got-
gas is more reliable than the solar charging?
I would say in Florida, I would rather have a Generac that runs off of like natural gas than I would solar panels. Because natural gas tends to not have a lot of issues with their infrastructure after storms because 90% of their infrastructure is underground.
Yeah.
The only part that's above ground is their gate stations. That's it.
Yeah, usually got 40 pounds of propane. I got a propane small little fire pit in the back.
Well, I'm not saying, Brenda, that they wouldn't do well. I just don't know if I would trust them. I just don't know how, 150-mile-an-hour winds, if you happen to be in the path of the winds that are that powerful, I don't know. I'd be very surprised if they held on.
Yeah, I would too.
And that's only because, like I said, they leave a gap underneath them. It's usually about 2 to 3 inches in diameter. So there's enough for wind to get up underneath them.
So you've looked into getting solar then?
No, I've seen some of our neighbors have solar panels, and you can clearly see them up on the roof. You can see the gap between them and the roof. Like I said, the solar panels are only going to be anchored as strong as the roof is, I guess, at the end of the day. So I don't know.
Hey, Paul, the longshoresmen have reached a tentative deal.
Oh, have they?
Yeah,
That's good to
they
hear.
return to work tomorrow,
That's
assuming
great
they ratify the
because-
deal.
Because The only thing that I agree with on their side was that they should get as much money as you can get out of the deal. But as far as putting in their automation,
But-
that automation is the future.
But did you hear that they were offered 50% and longshoremen said we want 80?
Yep. Good for them. Yeah, they're gonna be making like $80 an hour now.
Do you know the
Well-
average? You know the average guy on the ports are making, and they were talking about it on some news reports. The average guy working at the port will make almost 200,000 a year.
Yep.
That's if you can't live off of making 200 grand a year, you're living above your means. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
That does not deserve a pay raise.
There's
200,000 is plenty to live off of.
Yep.
Like
there's a
that's
lot of
crazy.
people who live well above their means and they've got debt up to their eyes.
That's what I'm saying. If you can't live off of 200 grand a year, and most likely, I'm sure some of these guys' wives probably work as well. You know, even if you're making an average yearly wage, I mean, that could be 230 to 250,000 a year. You can't live off of that.
I see Jason.
Yeah, speak of the devil. There he is.
We
devil,
said
for
Jason
real?
3 times.
Is
that why my ears are burning?
Oh, he came on.
Hey, we're asking about you, Jason.
I heard
Stop.
you have I heard you have some sort of power station.
Yeah, how
And
much
Anchor-
did
Oh,
that?
the Anchor C1000.
Yeah, how much
Yeah.
did that whole system cost you, if you don't mind? man.
I think I got it like 30% off on like opening day or something like that, and for like maybe $700, maybe. No. That was for the unit itself, but I bought the giant ass solar panel also. So
How much?
How heavy is it?
the maybe about what, 30 pounds. I mean, I could curl it, you know.
Oh,
pretty
okay.
easy.
How much was that by itself? Do you remember roughly?
The unit alone was $7,000 for the power station itself. The solar panel was probably like another 700.
You 7,000 or 700?
$700.
Oh, I was about to say, Jesus.
Yeah, no.
So if
For
you didn't get that
$7,000, I would have like 10 of
30%.
them.
So yeah, if you didn't get that 30%, you probably would have paid around what, 1,500 for the whole setup.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so I was about right. I
it-
said between
It was like a
1,200 to
day one
2,000.
opening special. And I was like,
So
I like
it's an-
Anchor products. I'm confident in their with their line.
So it's an Anchor C5?
Anchor C1000 is what I got. In fact,
C1000.
I did an unboxing on it.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I remember
Anchor-
when you opened he opened
Anchor
the
makes good
panels up.
stuff.
I remember when he opened the panels up and thought they were little tiny panels, and you realized that bitch was huge.
I was like, what in the world did I get? And then I
Yeah.
couldn't find the cable. Remember?
Yeah, I
And
remember
then I
that.
was like, wait a minute. I went back and watched the video again, and you could see the little yellow cable with the little nubs. Like, it fell behind a piece of cardboard. So I didn't
yeah.
have to email Anchor. Yeah.
Thank God you didn't throw anything away.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I don't throw stuff like that away until I know this is a good product also, because I keep the packaging as, as clean as possible in case I do need to return it. But it was pretty dang massive as far as the panel goes. I have yet to actually sew up a bag for it, if you will, like a carrying case, because it's pretty unwieldy. Like I could pick it up
And-
myself, easy day, right? But my wife, it would be difficult to move around.
Have
You
you
know?
tried running your big fridge in your kitchen off it?
No,
Would you?
no.
Too small?
Well, if I'm gonna do something like that, I mean, just the fridge, I probably could, I probably could. But if I'm gonna go, and I've been looking at that as well, from a standpoint of what if we do lose power,
Yeah.
I would want to ensure that at a minimum is on. But I would try it,
Or do you think it'd be better to go a little bit higher power?
Higher power means I could also charge my cell phones, which hopefully would still be in service at the same time as well.
Cell
the
towers
event of
go
some
into
type of
low power mode.
right. So yeah, I mean, I bought it primarily so I could charge my drone batteries in the field,
Ah.
which was more than enough power. But for a refrigerator, maybe I mean, I have two refrigerators, one in the garage, so I could put all the perishable stuff. See, I guess it comes down to the last time that we had a power outage for more than a few days was like in 2001 or something like that. So I guess we're due,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And or just say, you know what? That's just an insurance claim, $1,000 of food in the refrigerator done. And it's not like we have a bunch of food in the fridge either anyway. We eat pretty, if you will,
Pretty lean.
we eat, yeah, I mean, well, all right. So for example, I pretty much eat fresh fruit every morning, right? With a slice of roast beef and a handful of nuts, right? That's breakfast. And then eat
Nice.
whatever I eat. Yeah, I mean, but I eat like 5 meals a day. Small ones, and we don't keep them that much in the fridge. So when we run out, we just go to the store and get what we need. It's just my wife and I in the house now.
I'm cooking with gas.
There's nothing, yeah, cook with gas or with a
No.
fire.
My
you're
my
making
connector fits. So I made a
Oh,
little
nice.
the little 3-pin actually fits the LED. The wires that came with the LEDs weren't long enough.
But you saw a video of North Carolina, right? Right there, Jason.
You know what? I've seen pictures. It's really unfortunate that what's occurred over there, and it's wow.
Yeah. Paul, have you seen anything this bad?
Seen what?
Have you seen anything this bad? Considering what happened in North Carolina?
Oh yeah, I see it on the news all the time.
No, have you seen much this bad in many years?
No, not to that extent. Usually if it comes into the Gulf Coast, you got a little bit of stuff going on and mostly storm surge, but in this particular case, you've got tremendous amounts of rain. Like I think North Carolina got 14 or 16 inches of rain.
Yep. Mudslides.
And there's one
Yeah.
video of a guy driving on a highway, and all of a sudden the road just crushed in on him, and it just went black.
Yeah, probably flipped the car going down the hill.
I mean, this happened in North Carolina a couple of years back when they had that last hurricane. They got completely flooded out. So I mean, it was just as bad. It was probably just as bad. There was just more people missing and dead this time. But I mean, you really can't compare natural disasters because they're all bad in their own way. You ask people
Yeah,
out
but-
there where like Joplin is, like where Donald lives, they would say that was horrible, right?
Yeah, but people
So-
move to places like Asheville and where Jason is because they don't usually get hit by hurricanes, tornadoes.
Well, it's hard to find a
I
good place
don't-
in the
for
U.S.
Virginia
that
Beach,
doesn't.
I would say people don't move here not necessarily for that. They move here because the military gave them orders to come here. You know what I mean? I don't know many people that move to a
What's up,
certain
Corey?
spot because there's less of natural disasters. It's just one of those things that it's a freak of nature that it happens. It's like God wants to wipe out people in that location, then cool. If you believe in God, then that's what he just did. And it's an unfortunate thing, but it's just maybe the earth needed a culling, right? In that area. I hate to say it like that too, but it happened. It happens. It's not because they're trying to avoid. I mean, it's like, all right, yeah, you move out west, but they've got their fair share of different types of storms and natural disasters out there too, like earthquakes, right?
Dusty, you've got a good
But-
point. You can't be scared of everything. People move to Florida and cry about hurricanes. You're the one that moved here. Nobody made you.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing
Agreed.
is well, that's what I was saying before is like the United States itself has one of the most, if not the most volatile weather system in the world as far as the different natural disasters we have to deal with. And anywhere you go, you're going to have to deal with something. I mean, there's
Exactly.
really
You
no
got
perfect
something.
place, whether it's snowstorms or hurricanes or whatever. I mean, there's always something you got to deal with.
Yep. And you
So,
deal with it. And I don't really
so
concern myself too much with what is not directly in front of me. Yeah, I don't listen to the news. You know, there's too
So,
much negativity in the news that it's like,
so are
it's just
there
gonna bring me down.
is there military personnel moving out from your neck of the woods, Jason, out towards North Carolina?
For what? Because of the weather?
No, for rescuing that.
I don't know. I mean,
Well, if anything, it'd
Department
be
of Defense
National
is for the
Guard.
defense of the country. You know,
Yeah, that would be National Guard.
that would be the National Guard if they're mobilized to do stuff like that.
Yeah, the only
Is
way the
it-
military itself would get involved, it'd have to be a massive disaster. I'm talking like half
Yeah.
the country got wiped out type bullshit. Like that's the way it would have to be.
And in which
Yeah,
case, chances are, if I mean, if that were the case, we'd have to triage our own local areas anyway as well. You know, there wouldn't be any point to go someplace else just to fix what's out there when we got to fix what's here in front of us
Wow.
first. It's like, why are we sending money overseas when we need to send money to, you know, the crap we
So-
have at home also, right?
Justin, Florida's been hit by over 120 hurricanes since records started since they were started keeping records. What do you think?
It's not lying about that.
Now, when did they start keeping records?
And then you got to remember too,
What?
depending on how far back you go, how accurate were they really?
What,
Right.
1900s? Late 1800s, I think.
If you say it's 120 hurricanes, let's say it's 120 years, so it's one a year.
Yeah.
Well, like I said too,
Because it'd be more than 120 years, you'd reckon records would be kept. Must be
Oh, yes.
easily 50.
It must
well,
be
and
more
how
120 hurricanes. They get more than one a year.
well, like I said too, how accurate were they? Right? If you go and
Oh
say,
yeah, way back then. But today,
Good.
I still think one of the most devastating hurricanes to hit the U.S. was 1991 in Florida.
Mhm.
You want to guess the name, Justin?
I don't know.
Hurricane Andrew.
Well, like I said, like I've heard the news say, "Oh, this is the most devastating tornado since 1823," and I'm like, "How the fuck in 1823 did they know anything remotely about tornadoes, or even? I mean,
Right.
to actually say, yeah, that was an F5, like they didn't have all the equipment back then to measure shit like that. They were just guessing."
I mean, most magnitude of number of deaths based on how many people died compared to how many people were actually living in that particular area at that time. Because population
lot of-
density is going to change as well.
Yeah, a lot of times
That's
they would go by
percentage-based.
damage too.
Okay.
Like that's how
Yeah.
they rated it.
Monetary. Yeah.
But these days, you know, they can, you know, pull up a weather satellite and it could sit and read it. Oh, the winds are this exact amount, you know, and then they have people on the ground with, you know, machines and different weather stuff that's sitting there reading, and so they know exactly what's going on. They can actually record all that data. I mean, if you watch the news, they're pretty good at knowing when a certain cell in the sky is going to produce a tornado, and they'll start
Oh
marking
yeah.
it. They just don't know when it's going to touch down, but
Uh,
they'll have it pretty accurate as far as knowing where in the clouds it's going to end up forming.
The
at.
video of particularly of tornadoes coming down. Those are pretty cool videos.
I've always wanted to go professional weather chasing with the tornado crew. I'd love
I'd
to do
love
that.
to do that.
Why can't you?
I do it. I do it. You know, I do storm chasing as a hobby, but shit, I'd love
So-
to do it on a professional
Oh,
level.
it's not that I couldn't. I would just have to
So-
find somebody to be willing to do it.
So Justin, Dominic, and Jason would go storm chasing together.
Oh, I'd
No.
go storm chasing, but I'd want to do it with the professional crew that knew what they
Yeah.
were doing.
I wouldn't do it. I have no desire. I just want to look at my weather rock to tell me what the weather is outside.
Just part of the time, just look out the window.
At my weather rock.
Yeah.
Well, I went on UAV forecast this afternoon and checked on the web page for it and everything, and paid the subscription of, well, it would have been 79 pence a month, but it worked out at £4.75 for a year.
Yeah,
That's not bad.
it's a small amount.
That's
Yeah,
not bad, but
even
it's
the top one that gave you the 15 days
uh,
forecast was only £15 a year.
isn't that
About
for
25 Australian.
that's for the fly app?
No, it's for
Oh.
UAV.
That's for,
Right.
that's for the weather conditions.
Yeah.
UAV,
UAV
forecast.
weather. Did you hear about that, Jason? Now they're
The
going
UAV
subscription.
UAV forecast.
No. Nope.
Yeah, UAV forecast is now subscription only.
That's what it used to be.
So
No,
I'm
it
about
used
the
to-
money.
I've always paid for it.
But I think over there, Joe said it was for the hobbyist with the 1 day forecast. It was 99 cents a month.
Right before that, he said you could only see 4 hours out
Yeah.
for free.
That was the free one that they had, which they
Yeah.
don't now. Yeah.
Well, they're probably going to see how many people latch onto it. And if they get enough people biting on it, then I guarantee you those rates are going to go up next year. I'd almost bet you. Then they'll raise it up to like $3 or $4 a month. They'll end up raising it.
Well,
They're probably
it was £4.75 a year for the hobbyist. The 7 day forecast was £8 a year, and the 15-day forecast was £15 a year.
which, like
Which
I
is
said, I
crazy
don't.
because, I mean, the forecast is only as good as what's actually when you actually go to fly. I mean, yeah, I get it. It's for planning purposes to see if you're gonna do it or not, right? But
Yeah.
it's just the same as watching the seeing what the weather is gonna be on weather.com for free.
The
And-
more expensive, the hobbyist one only goes with wind speeds up to 400 feet.
And
Whereas the second plan goes up to 1,500 feet, and the third plan goes up to 5,000 feet.
No, we'd all love to go up to 5,000 feet.
Well, it's meant more for
Commercial.
light aircraft and
Or
use,
gliders and
hang gliders, parasenders. Yeah,
Well,
hang
like I said,
you
okay.
go. No, you
I
go.
was gonna say, and like everybody was saying, planning out 15 days ahead for your flight, but at the same time, if you're that meticulous, you're gonna check it the day of anyway.
Check
So
it just
why do you
before
really need
fly,
that?
Yep.
Why do you really need to go
Exactly.
that far out?
yeah.
Like you'd be fine with just a 24-hour model.
But the,
Yeah,
the,
how
the one
much-
strange, I was just going to say, the one strange thing we have here that you can parasail, paraglide, hang glide in a national park, but you can't fly a drone. Isn't that a bit strange?
Yeah,
Well, it's like how
Well-
it's like over here they don't have any regulations for the parasailing.
Yeah, I know.
And how much
Those guys-
difference is the UAV forecast compared to weather.com?
or
What
your
if-
weather rock.
lot more intimate in terms of what what it records.
Yeah.
Well, what it does is it brings all the information into one central hub.
Like satellite, the number of satellites you should be able to see from your location.
Yeah.
Or if you wanted to, technically you could go out for free and get all that information, but it's going to take you a little longer. But what that does is it offers a convenience of bringing it all into one central hub for you, giving you all the information in one central hub. But technically you could go out and find all that information for free if you wanted. I mean, you can find different websites and stuff that will give you the, UAV forecasts and what you could look up and see how many satellites are in over your area. I mean, it's stuff you can find for free. You just might have to, it'd probably take you 15, 20 minutes to try to locate all that information. I don't see the point in the whole satellite thing though. Like, your drone's going to tell you when you go to take off if you have enough satellites anyway. So, or you're not going to take off if you only.
You're driving an hour and a half, and you get there and you turn it on and says there's not enough satellites. Then you got to drive an hour and a half back. I think it's more in the planning phase of it.
Yeah, but have you ever had that actual issue come up? If it wasn't actually the drone malfunctioning?
No.
That's my point. There's enough of those satellites up there. I don't think that's ever going to be an issue anyway. If it was, I think at that point that system has something seriously wrong with it. Like they lost a few satellites to solar flares or something happened where it fucked something up and there's nothing you could do anyway at that point. I don't know. That's just my theory behind it. Because the only time I've ever seen anybody have connection issues with satellites on one of the drones is because the drones had issues that DJI had to fix with firmware updates. It wasn't because the satellites weren't there, they weren't malfunctioning. It wasn't the satellites end, it was the drones problem.
Yeah, usually it is, or it's lacks an update.
Yeah.
What was it? The Mavic 3 was the one I think had issues with connecting, didn't it?
Originally, yeah. And then the firmware was updated and that problem no longer happens.
Yeah, because they had some issue with the contract with the. Didn't it have to do with something?
It was taking about 5 or 10 minutes to actually acquire enough satellites to take off.
Yeah.
Right, like I said, on that aspect, it wasn't the satellite's fault, so it was the drone's fault at that point. So there's nothing you could do anyway.
It was when they were having problems with GLONASS and Beidou.
Yeah, wasn't it they didn't have they lost the contract for it or something temporarily?
Well, it was the Russian satellites. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it depends on where you stand to get those 10 satellites.
And the European Galileo, it was just having problems with Russia and China.
Because sometimes if you're standing where Mark is, you might not get a great signal, but if you stand where, say, David and Laura usually are, you might get a better signal.
Oh, I get about 30 visible satellites every day.
I've actually had it up to 32 at one stage.
But it can vary.
If I went into the middle of Australia, I reckon I'd have a bit of a struggle.
I mean, let's have a look. At the moment, I have
I'll chuck it on and see how
32 visible satellites, 25 that it will lock on.
I've got 34 visible, 32.1 locked.
And 2.33 KP index.
Well, and see the two things. Oh God.
I've got 70 an hour winds.
8 to 15 miles an hour winds.
23 kilometers winds
from east southeast
during the day.
But if it's 80 mile an hour winds, don't fly.
But I would say your
9
Two
degrees
bit-
centigrade.
Well, I'd say the
Six-
only two things you would really have to look at when you go out to fly that you can't see is going to be the wind and the APX or
Yeah. Well, I always
solar.
look at the wind at 200 feet.
Right. Like, but if you walk outside and you see storm clouds, obviously you can determine whether you're going to be able to fly or not. You don't need an
Yeah.
app to tell you that. But as far as like wind speeds
I
at a
say
certain
if it's,
height
if
and
it's
all
not
that,
raining and not windy, I'm sending it.
Yeah. But I've got 0% probability of rain, 6% cloud cover, and a
I've got
visibility.
5% probability and 84% cloud cover.
Why?
but the only two that you would
All
really
right,
need to
guys.
look.
Kilometers